So this video is going to be a bit different from other hands-on and reviews because I'll have more of a discussion on the new Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. I actually had to buy this phone, so if I don't seem to be cheerful enough, that could be an effect of having parted with a lot of money. So the screen is flat now, and that was something really important for me because I just can't stand curved screens, and if you wanted an Ultra phone earlier, you had to have curved screen. It may not seem like a big deal, but now you won't need to deal with complicated screen protectors and cases that don't protect from the sides. The side edge won't be discolored, and I really wonder what even the advantage of those curved screen was. I am not sure if anyone noticed here, but I actually have a tempered glass applied on the screen, and its ultrasonic fingerprint sensor still works very nicely. This wouldn't have been possible without a much more complicated and expensive process on a phone with a curved screen. The Ultra's new Gorilla Glass armor does make its screen avoid a lot of the reflections, but adding a tempered glass like this makes it reflective again. But I would happily trade many heart attacks for reflection in case I drop this. This display has much sharper corners versus the non-Ultra S24 models, but if you put a cover on it, the corners of the phone won't hurt your hand, and a case like this will also add MagSafe compatibility. But later on I discovered that you really shouldn't use a MagSafe case with the S24 Ultra because the magnets inside a case like this interfere with the S Pen and keep it from working correctly, so I actually had to remove the tiny magnets from my case before the S Pen would work properly. I also think that having a more rectangular display just looks better while watching video content, and overall, I really love the design of the S24 Ultra even if not much has changed in the past couple of years. This is definitely a big phone, and unless you have big hands, I think that it can be too big of a phone for you. You can manage with phones that are taller, but the S24 Ultra is so wide that even for people with big hands, this is borderline unmanageable. I really think that you should try holding the S24 and S24 Plus to see if you really need a phone as big as this, but its width definitely makes some things like typing easier, and the haptic motor gives you a very sharp and satisfying feedback. This is the only phone in the S series to have a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 in India and in many other markets because the non-Ultra S24 models have an Exynos 2400. The performance of both of these processors is almost the same, so there is no need to think that the Exynos 2400 is not worthy of the lineup, but one of the weird moves that Samsung made this year is not having Wi-Fi 7 on the S24 and S24 Plus even if you have the Snapdragon variant because they wanted to keep it consistent across the world. I just don't know why they just didn't include Wi-Fi 7 in their Exynos processors because this makes the non-Ultra S24s look bad when much cheaper phones like the iQOO 12 and OnePlus 12 have Wi-Fi 7. Not having it may not be a big deal for you, but these phones are supported with 7 years of software updates, so you may want something that is more future-proof. Another underwhelming aspect for some people may be that they have also reduced the focal length of the periscope telephoto camera to 5x instead of 10x, but personally I think that this was the right direction to go into because even though the 10x zoom shots are slightly worse looking than the optical zoom of the S23 Ultra, the 10x range just makes that camera a special use case camera instead of the more practical 5x lens that we have on this now. I really think that this is a more mature camera setup that is more versatile because I find use cases for a 5x zoom to be much more frequent than a 10x zoom. The other camera lenses on this are as good as what you would expect from a Galaxy S series Ultra phone, and this phone camera system really makes you want to take more photos, and it just provides a very enjoyable shooting experience. Now these days, most phones have become good enough when it comes to the performance, and you can easily get something that performs as well as this for less than half the price. The OnePlus 12 is a great example of this, but these days, the software has become a very important part of the smartphone experience, and that is where Samsung totally nails it with their One UI because you are just getting so many things in a mostly polished package that you can keep playing with its features and customizations endlessly, especially with the Good Lock app, and again, you are getting 7 years of updates here. We also have specialty features like Samsung DeX, which gives you a desktop environment on a monitor with a single cable, and there are just so many things that make the power users feel that they have invested in something worth the asking price. The S Pen is another great example of its hardware and software refinement because it is so much more than just a stylus. You can control the camera with this, and you can basically customize this endlessly to control various features of your smartphones. And while I am a person who really doesn't like writing with anything anywhere, if you are a person who takes physical notes, then this is just going to be the best device for you. One of the biggest highlights on the S24 series lineup is of course its Galaxy AI features, and while there are useful features here that will also come to other phones, I am really not a person who has a lot of use for all this. A lot of the processing happens on device on S24 Ultra, which is impressive, and we may be able to see more good stuff in the future, but for now, the AI features are really not something that I would buy this phone for. That being said, the text calling feature is really perfect for spam calls, and I am definitely going to use it to annoy my ex-health insurance agency. One counterpoint that I would like to make against this phone is that with the changes in the S24 series lineup, the S24 Plus can be a better purchase for a lot of people. That finally has an even sharper 1440p display which is also LTPO, and now that the zoom on the Ultra is limited to 5x, being limited to 3x on the Plus model doesn't seem that big of a compromise. That phone is just more compact and lighter, so unless you really need Wi-Fi 7, the Plus series phone can definitely be a more practical option for you. The battery life is of course really good on this, and for most people it can last for 2 days. Personally, I am quite happy with the S24 Ultra because I find it to be just manageable enough for my hands. I love the camera, the screen is really great, performance is the best in segment, and I am really liking the One UI and other software features. Spending almost 1.5 lakh rupees on a smartphone is really not something that most people should do because you can get a very solid experience for 60 to 70% of its price, but these days we are only seeing incremental updates in smartphones, so a phone like this will easily last for 4 to 5 years without slowing down. So if you are planning to keep this for a few years, then it can make sense to spend more for a more refined experience. Samsung's service availability and quality is also really better than the majority of brands, which can also be one of the reasons to go for it. And that will be it for this video. Do give this a thumbs up if you liked it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.